Hey guys, how's it going? I'd like to take just a moment to please ask you to like and share if you enjoy these videos that paint a tapestry representing the various histories of your favorite car brands. On to the video. So right now we're going to explore the history of a company that is quite simply addicted to making anything that goes vroom. And who can blame them? Combustion is such a beautiful thing. They make everything from cars to motorcycles to ATVs to outboard motors, generators, and other general purpose engines. Fantastic stuff. But our story starts with a different kind of engine. In 1909, Michio Suzuki founded his company in the small village of Hamamatsu, Japan. Suzuki started out by making, well, it's a kind of engine, but more like a human-powered engine. Suzuki was producing looms, and the name of the company was originally Suzuki Loom Works. If you don't know what a loom is, then I don't blame you. I didn't know what it was either. It seems to be a human-powered rotation engine used to produce cloth, fabric, and tapestry. It even has two pedals like an automatic car, so already we can see the petrolhead DNA forming. The silk industry in Japan was booming, and Suzuki, well, was reveling in it. Now, like many of the great pioneers of the motoring industry, Mr. Suzuki didn't rest on his laurels. He felt that there was more to be had. After 30 years of making one product, Suzuki looked around and saw that the world was taking very well to these things called cars. He decided he would get into the game. In 1937, Suzuki ventured into automobile manufacturing, and within a couple of years the recipe was starting to come good. They managed to make some prototypes and did some brilliant engineering with liquid-cooled four-stroke engines. But just as the ball was starting to roll, America, the great freer of all, decided that Japan would be a brilliant place to test a new kind of weapon of mass destruction. And, well, it's safe to say that this stifled Japanese industry quite a bit. After the war, Suzuki went back to focusing on doing what he did best, producing looms. In 1951, the cotton market collapsed though, and Suzuki was left with no other option but to try and start producing cars again. Japan needed cheap and reliable transportation. Suzuki's first success in the motoring world, however, came from little gas-powered engines that people could strap onto normal bicycles. Just like a number of other companies, Suzuki was making strap-ons. They did, of course, then put one of these strap-ons on their own bicycles. It was basically their first motorbike. They called it the Power Free. It came with a whole horsepower, powered by a little two-stroke engine. By the mid-1950s, Suzuki was producing thousands of bicycles per month. Then, that moment, finally it arrived. In 1955, the moment we've all been waiting for. And this year, Suzuki produced and had great success in selling their first passenger vehicle, the majestically cute Suzuki Suzulite. This little Italian-looking stallion was front-wheel drive with four-wheel independent suspension and rack and pinion steering. Great stuff for cars of that time. Now from this point onwards, it was all the way up for Suzuki. They achieved so much. In 1960, Suzuki first entered the world of motorcycle racing when they entered the Isle of Man TT. In 1962, they took their first victory in the 50cc class at the Isle of Man TT, after fending off a pesky Honda. In the next year, the first Japanese rider to win the Isle of Man TT won it on a Suzuki. Again, Suzuki won the 50cc and 125cc class championships. As if cars and motorcycles weren't enough, in 1965, Suzuki decided to start making outboard motors as well. They entered the market with a 5-horsepower two-stroke engine. These guys loved engineering. In 1969, they released the Suzuki T500 motorcycle with an air-cooled parallel twin 500cc engine. At that time, it was the largest displacement of any two-stroke engine out there. This bike could do over 100 miles per hour, and it had good handling. In North America, they called it the Cobra. But then Ford got their knickers in a twist and Suzuki was forced to sell it as the Titan. Over 100,000 of these babies were produced and the model was discontinued in 1976. The T500 also won the Isle of Man TT 500cc class in 1970. In 1970, Suzuki released a car that, even today, is still a solid range. The much favoured Suzuki Jimny, a mini 4x4. You know how Dr. Evil had Mini-Me? Well, the Jimny was like what would happen if the Toyota Land Cruiser cloned a mini version of itself. It's kind of awesome. It was a tiny off-road monster, like Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. It was a hit across the globe. It was the only one of its kind. It was such a hit that Suzuki had to make an assembly line completely dedicated to it. The second generation of the Jimny got perhaps the best name ever given to a car coming out of the Japanese market. In Japan, it was still the Jimny, but in other certain parts of the world, they knew it as the Suzuki Samurai, or the Katana, or the Caribbean. In India, it was the frickin' Gypsy. The Jimny is on its 4th generation now, and the new one, I believe it's even cooler than ever. Leaving the Jimny behind for now, you probably didn't know that Suzuki also got into the medical equipment game. In 1974, they decided, let's make engines for wheelchairs. And they did. They launched the motorized Z600 motor chair, but just because they were building wheelchairs doesn't mean that they were moving slow for now. In 1976, Suzuki released their GS series motorcycles. Certain models had 4-stroke engines. They won the 500cc World Championship again this year. Suffice it to say, Suzuki did a lot of winning. I can't even list the amount of wins that Suzuki has, just like I can't list the amount of countries in which they have factories. In 1979, Suzuki released another one of their more popular car models, the Alto mini vehicle. By the mid-1980s, they had already sold 1 million. This car was such a success that it took Suzuki up to 7th place among the Japanese car manufacturers. On top of that, just a few years later, in the 80s, Suzuki released yet another of their globe-dominating cars, the Suzuki Swift, which I think is one of the best named small cars ever, and today. I think it's one of the best small cars out there. I mean, just look at it. Now to finish this video off, even though there's so much more to be said about Suzuki, I thought I'd cap it off with what I consider to be Suzuki's magnum opus of anything with an engine on wheels. Some of you may already know where I'm going with this. You cannot talk about Suzuki without talking about the GSX 1300R that debuted in 1998. But of course, everyone knows it as the legendary Hayabusa sport bike. Imagine how cool it must have been to tell someone, nah, I've got the new Hayabusa. The name itself has a deadly ring to it, and it should because it means peregrine falcon, which is the fastest bird in the world. It lived up to its name because between 1999 and 2000, it was the fastest production motorcycle in production. I mean, it was so badass that Morpheus had one in Biker Boys, the Fast and Furious of motorbike movies. It was rumored that you could go so fast on this bike that you could leave the Matrix. It was known to reach top speeds of 194 miles per hour or 312 kilometers per hour, and it looked sexy AF while it was doing it. Anyway, that's all for today. If you want to know how Suzuki shaped up after the 2000s, leave a like, comment, and please share to all your petrolhead brothers. Anyway guys, this has been Private School Tav. Make sure to subscribe for more. I'll check you out the next time.